Hello and welcome back to our YouTube channel. Well, it is lecture 3 of governance and the date is 24th July 2025. And currently we are discussing Right to Information Act of 2005. Well, as you can see, it is the third lecture. Let me give you a little recap what we discussed so far. In the first lecture, we just defined what governance is. We saw various definitions, for example, World Bank definition. Then we saw that United Nations Development Program definition. Then we saw various thinkers, what Amrita Sen says about it, various economists, what they say about the governance. We saw various thinkers, what do they say about it. And eventually we understood that what governance is. We established the fact it is not only associated with the government officials, not only associated with the government, but the private officials, public authorities or private authorities, they do also play the part in it. So eventually we established governance, what governance is. Then after that we started to discuss what are various aspects of governance. In that we saw that transparency is one. Then we saw that accountability is there. Then we saw that inclusivity is there. Then we saw that participation is there. There are various, provisions or aspects of the governance. And we started to discuss them one by one. We started with the transparency. We saw that how important transparency is with respect to the governance. If there is no transparency, there would be no trust. So how we can get this transparency? We can ask the questions. And when we get answer to these questions, this trust develops. So eventually this trust develops. And what was the best way to ask the questions? The best way to ask the questions is through that there should be some way, it should be protected by the law, that we should be able to ask the questions. And how we could have asked this? Eventually the government came up with this act called the Right to Information Act. So with respect to Right to Information Act, we first saw that so what was the best way we could have asked these questions is that the government came up with the Right to Information Act. And we also discussed what led to Right to Information Act. How Aruna Roy, who was the ex-IAS officer, she took matter into her hands. She saw that there are laborers who are working for the government and they are not paid on the time. There are delays with respect to the wages. What is the reason for that? She went to the different offices and she was denied the data. So with respect to it, eventually she thought that there is something which we are missing in this democracy, and that is we are not granted the information which is required for us. Eventually the organization came in, different officials participated in it, and they started to demand that there should be right to information. And it started in Rajasthan, and this thing which started in Rajasthan, which eventually spread to the whole country, and finally the Right to Information Act of 2005 came in. So when Right to Information Act was formed, then we discussed various provisions of it which are important for your preparation. After discussing the various provisions, we also saw what was the need of it. We discussed various success stories with respect to Right to Information, how it was helpful in debunking various corruption cases. For example, Commonwealth related case. For example, we saw that the teacher who was not coming to school, and we discussed with respect that. We saw various success stories. But at the same time, we saw that there are certain provisions which can be misused. There are certain provisions where it lacks. There are various issues with the Right to Information too. We also discussed that. Then eventually we proposed some reforms too. So this is what till now we had discussed with respect to the governance. And today, as the topic is Right to Information, we will see how it plays well with the judiciary, or we can say how judiciary has how it is compatible with the judiciary, or we can say how judiciary has in a way diluted Right to Information Act of 2005. Then also we'll discuss the Official Secrets Act. Official Secrets Act, we'll discuss about that. We'll see what are the different philosophies and how they overlap sometimes each other. Then also we'll discuss the Digital Personal Data Protection Act of 2023. Digital Personal Data Protection Act of 2023, and we will see how Digital Personal Data Protection Act of 2023 is in a way one of the roadblock to the Right to Information Act of 2005. And eventually at the end we will discuss the whistleblowers. So this is what we are going to discuss in today's class. But as we had laid the roadmap of today's discussion. Before we start our discussion, I would like to give you the brief introduction about this initiative, so that if you are new to our channel, you will get more connected with us. Basically, what we are doing here. We had started an initiative by the name Target IAS 2026. By the name, we had started an initiative by the name Target IAS 2026. What we had started the initiative by the name Target IAS 2026. Under this initiative, every day we are uploading 2 videos. One in the morning session, where we discuss the daily current affairs. We discuss various important articles which are in the newspapers. We try to break them down into the simplest language possible, and we also try to derive the possible prelims and mains questions which could be relevant for your preparation. This is what we do in the morning session, and in the evening session we upload another video, which is this video, where we discuss your static syllabus. And here we had started with Indian polity, which we had already completed. If you had not watched my videos till now, please go to the playlist. You will find every video related to Indian polity, and we had done a great analysis of your syllabus there. We had discussed every topic which is relevant for your prelims or mains, and now we are discussing the governance. And here we had promised you that by the month of January 2026, what we are going to do, we'll cover your full syllabus. We'll try to cover your full syllabus related to your prelims or mains preparation. And only exception here is that we are not going to cover your optional subjects. And one more thing which is important with respect to this initiative, that as we are delivering these lectures, at the same time we are preparing your notes. These notes are very different from the conventional ones which you would have read from different sources. So these notes are very much different. If you want to get access to these notes, what you have to do, you would have to mail us, and you would be told to pay 200 rupees per subject. It is the only amount which you can pay us, through which you can help this initiative. So this, for the notes, you would have to pay 200 rupees per subject, and these notes would be available to you. Currently, we had almost completed the Indian polity notes, and we are combining polity with governance. Then only these notes would be available. So if you want to be the part of this initiative, please do subscribe the channel, do share it with your friends, so that they may also get benefited from this initiative. And also please do write in the comments what else should we bring for you guys. This initiative is for you. This whole hard work which we do here, it is for you guys. If you are not watching it, or if you don't interact with us, this in a way dilutes the purpose. So please do interact with us. Do tell us what should we improve. Do tell us what else should we bring for you guys. Now, without any delay, let's start our discussion, which we had chosen for today's. The first topic which we have to discuss is RTI with judiciary. Right to Information Act of 2005 with respect to judiciary. What is the impact of judiciary in that? So let us start our discussion. Let us start our discussion with Right to Information Act and the judiciary. You would have heard about, we had discussed about RTI activist Shailesh Gandhi. And today we are going to discuss about another RTI activist. His name is S.C. Agarwal. What is his name? S.C. Agarwal. So what he did, he raised questions. He raised few questions to the Central Public Information Officer. What were the questions he raised to the Central Public Information Officer? What were the questions he raised? He raised a few questions. He wanted to get the data of judges. He wanted to get the data of judges, and 2 demands were there. The first demand was he wanted to know what are the assets of the judges, what are the personal assets of the judges. Second thing, what he wanted to know that, yes, we believe that there is collegium system, and we know that how judges are elected. But sometimes, what is believed that it should be the seniority is the major reason for that appointment of another judges. But sometimes there are judges who are appointed, but they are superseded by many senior judges, but they are chosen for that. What is the reason for that? What is the reason for their appointment? Reason for the appointment of judges. So these questions, these are the 2 informations what he wanted from the Central Public Information Officer. So Central Public Information Officer, they went to the Supreme Court and told them, please give these 2 informations to this particular person. His name is S.C. Agarwal. But the Supreme Court rejected. Supreme Court said that no, we are not going to give this information to you. We are exempted in a way from the Right to Information Act. Eventually, what happened? This S.C. Agarwal, he went to the Central Information Commission, and Central Information Commission directed again. Central Information Commission said to the S.C. Agarwal, yes, indeed, you deserve to know about this. He directed, Central Information Commission directed the Supreme Court, please give this information to it. And Supreme Court again, did not give the information, and and they did not agreed with the Central Public Information or Central Information Commission. So what it led to? It led to Supreme Court filed the appeal against the order of Central Information Commission in the Supreme Court. What it led to? That Supreme Court filed appeal in Supreme Court. Supreme Court is filing appeal in Supreme Court against whom? Against the order of Central Information Commission. Central Information Commission. So they are filing the order. Now the question is, who is going to hear this case? This case is against Central Information Commissioner. The another party is Supreme Court, and they are filing it in the Supreme Court. Now Supreme Court will decide what will happen with respect to this when such questions are asked. For that, various discussions came into existence. Who should hear this case? First, it was decided that 2-judge bench should hear, then 3-judge bench should hear, and eventually 5-judge bench will decide over it. 5-judge bench will decide over it. And what were the questions to be asked to be answered by these 5-judge bench? First, let's see what were the questions to be answered by this 5-judge bench. The first question, which was to be answered by this 5-judge bench, was would it, for example, if you ask this information, would it interfere with the independence of the judiciary? Would it in a way impact the independence of the judiciary? This was the first question to be answered by the Supreme Court, by the 5-judge bench. Suppose if a person is asking for such information, if we will give this information, would it interfere with the independence of the judiciary? So this is the first question which is to be answered by the Supreme Court. And the second question, let's see what was the second question. For example, the second question which was asked, the relationship between collegium, as they are going to give it to the government, to the president, collegium communicates with the president, or we can say the judges communicate with the government. So in this communication, there would be, judges would be very much frank in this communication. Now the question is, if this would be shared with the people, if this would be shared, this information would be shared with the public, then this frankness will, fade away eventually. That judges will not be that frank in speaking to the government at the official level. So it in a way will impact this. It in a way will impact the real thinking of the judges. It in a way will impact the real application, how judges have to work with respect to that. What is the real, what is the real opinion of the judges with respect to that? So this was the second question to be answered. Then the third question, which was to be answered, was, we had discussed the provisions of right to information. For example, section 8, we discussed section 8 of the right to information, in which no personal information should be shared. But if it is for the if there is a public, if for example, if there is larger public interest, then only this personal information can be shared. So with respect to this, the question is, should it be shared? Is there the larger public interest? Is there the larger public interest that they should know that how the judges are transferred, how the judges are promoted, or how the judges are appointed? And is there any larger public interest that the people should know that what are the assets available to judges? So these questions are to be answered. These questions are to be answered by whom? These questions are to be answered by 5-judge bench. Eventually, this case lasted for a very long. This case started in 2009, and it lasted for a very long, very larger time. And eventually, in 2019, the judgment came. In 2019, the judgment came, and it was a very beautiful judgment. What they say in this judgment, they say that the Office of the Chief Justice of India Office of Chief Justice of India is a public authority. And judges have to give the details. Judges give the details to Chief Justice of India. And when asked for this, when it is a public authority, when Chief Justice of India is a public authority, then any public, as we discussed with respect to the right to information, if there is any public authority, then you can ask this information from them. Similarly, we can ask this information from the Chief Justice of India. And with respect to this, but there are certain conditions in which way this information can be transferred. There were certain conditions laid. For example, there is the condition of the third party, the government is also involved, or the judge is also involved. For example, if you will ask the question to the Chief Justice of India, the condition is that you have to consult the Chief Justice of India, will also consult the judge or the government. So in this way, this case got handled, and eventually what we understood from this case, that the Chief Justice of India, it is the public authority, and questions like this can be asked to them. But there is also limitations. You cannot, as we discussed in the case, you cannot ask the questions what judgment was given by them, who was the author of that judgment. We cannot ask such questions to them. So till now, I hope you had understood this whole story, what had happened so far, what is, how judiciary got impacted by with respect to Right to Information Act. So if now what we established, that if CJI is working in the administrative capacity, then we can ask for the information. Otherwise, the decisions we cannot ask that, if the Chief Justice of India is working in the administrative capacity. So this is what so far we had got from it. Chief Justice of India is the public authority, but when it is working in the administrative capacity, at that time we can ask the questions from them. Now let's see. This was the first establishment of this story. This was the first thing which we understood from it. Now let's look at it in a very different perspective. We got it now, that we can ask the questions about the appointment. We can ask them. We can ask the questions. We understood that Chief Justice of India, it is the public authority, and we can ask the information from them. Now let's see how the judiciary has in a way diluted the Right to Information Act. That's another topic. First point we discussed about the Chief Justice of India. It is the public authority. We got it, and when he is working in the administrative capacity, at that time we can ask such information. But there are certain safeguards too. There are certain ways in which we can ask that. We understood it. Now the second question of today's discussion is how the judiciary has diluted the Right to Information. Dilution of Right to Information Act by judiciary. Let's try to understand that, how judiciary has diluted Right to Information Act. Now we have to see the dilution of Right to Information by judiciary. When we discussed Right to Information, we saw that the decision of Central Information Commission, CIC, is final, and the decision of CIC is final, and it is it in a way is mandatory, and it is to be followed. But we had seen cases with respect to it. We had seen contradiction to it. There are appeals. There are appeals against the chief Central Information Commission, and they are challenged where? They are challenged in the Supreme Courts. They are challenged in the, there are appeals. Appeals are accepted by the Supreme Courts. Why they are accepting it? Because judicial review is the basic structure. So in a way they are diluting it. What should have been ideally, what should have been that the decision of Chief Information Commissioner or Central Information Commission, it should have been the final, and it should have been final and binding. But we had seen the cases that there are appeals against the decisions of the Chief Information Commission in the Supreme Court. And what it leads to? It leads to the delays. And whenever any person he approaches the Supreme Court for the appeal for against the appeal of the Chief Information Commissioner, so what does the Supreme Court does? Supreme Court stays the decision without hearing the Chief Information Commissioner. So it in a way is diluting the impact of the Chief Information Commissioner. Also, the Supreme Court has highlighted that, when such appeal, when there is so much interference, so many appeals with respect to the right to information, people are seeking the information. What does the Supreme Court has said? That, it is adversely affecting the efficiency of the administration. When you are asking so much information, what it leads to, it is adversely affecting the efficiency of the administration. It is adversely affecting the efficiency of the administration. How it is affecting administration, and the Supreme Court has highlighted that. It has highlighted that 70% of the staff of public authorities spend. It has highlighted that 70% of the staff of public authority is spending. It is 75% of the time. It is 75% of the time in in catering to these appeals. So what does the Supreme Court is trying to highlight here? That when these public authorities, they are always involved in catering these appeals, when will they get time to do their official business, when they will get time to do their official work? So it in a way affects the efficiency of the administration. So this is how the Supreme Court has in a way diluted it. First, what should have been the Chief Information Commissioner's decision should have been final and binding, but there are appeals against the decision in the Supreme Court and the High Courts, and they are accepting the appeals. And at the same time, when they are when they are staying these decisions, they are not listening to the other party. And also how the Supreme Court has interacted with respect to these appeals, it is saying that if such appeals are endorsed by these authorities, it in a way dilutes their working capacity. So this is how it has in a way it has attacked the Supreme Court has attacked the right to information. Then with respect to this, we will see the Supreme Court said that 75% of the employees, or the 75% of the staff of public authorities are involved, are spending their 75% of the time in solving these appeals. So we'll see what is the authenticity of it. Supreme Court did not give us the source for it. So with respect to this, we will see, we will cross check it. We discussed yesterday about the Shailesh. We discussed about Shailesh Gandhi, and he was the first he was the first person from the he was the first such person from the right to information activist who was promoted, or who was appointed as the Chief Information Commissioner. And he has highlighted, and we saw his work, that approximately in 3 years tenure he has solved more than 20,000 cases. We saw that how efficient he was. And the Shailesh Gandhi, what he says that he has done huge research with respect to it, and he says that according to ROG Foundation, he analyzes these appeals in front of the when such appeals are raised. He analyzed that the 50% appeals are that appeals which those government officials, or which those public authorities should had already uploaded it on their website. As we saw that when we discussed the provisions of Right to Information Act, its first provision was that these public authorities should upload, or should give on suo moto this information to the people. It should have been uploaded on the website, but these 50% of such cases are those which are not uploaded on their website, which they should have already uploaded, and these are such cases. Then he also highlights, according to ROG Foundation, that 25% of these cases are the delays. They are related to delays with respect to the information. For example, you are seeking an information and there are delays with respect to that. So 25% of them are delays. And there are many cases which deal with the exposing the, and these 25% deal with the exposing of illegal activities. So in a way, what Shailesh Gandhi is trying to say, that what the Supreme Court has highlighted, that 75% of the time spent by the 70% of the staff is getting wasted in catering to these appeals. It is not exactly true. Instead of bashing these writ petitioners, the Supreme Court should have bashed these public authorities, why they are not uploading this information, why they are not following the provisions of the law. So this is till now we established what is the relationship between the courts, the court, and the judiciary, and the right to information. Now As I told you, this is not only thing which we have to discuss today. We also have to discuss something else. What is that something else which we have to discuss? That is the Official Secrets Act. Now we will see how these Official Secrets Act and the right to information overlap each other. We will see the different philosophies of these acts, and we will try to understand the Official Secrets Act here. Let's try to find out that. Now we have to discuss the Official Secrets Act and right to information. Official Secrets Act and right to information. So what are the philosophies? What is the philosophy of right to information? Philosophy is transparency. And philosophy of the Official Secrets Act, it is, as the name suggests, it is with respect to the secrecy. So when was the Right to Information Act adopted in our country? It was adopted in the year 2005. And when was the Official Secrets Act adopted? It was adopted in the year 1923. So it is colonial era law. And we will see it is pre-constitutional law. It has the colonial legacy attached to it, and why it was brought in, so that the India's security, sovereignty would be protected. So what are the what are the prohibited entities in it, about which you cannot ask the questions? For example, if it is related to army, if it is related to navy, if it is related to air force, and if it is related to places where areas are places where weapons are manufactured or stored. If it is related to these, then their Official Secrets Act will imply places where weapons or areas where weapons are manufactured or stored. Sorry, I got to attend a guest. So what is the philosophy of official secrets? The philosophy is to maintain the secrecy, and it includes few areas where this Official Secrets Act applies. We saw that it was introduced in 1923, and the aim is to protect the sovereignty and integrity of the nation. And these are the areas where it mostly applies, if it is related to army, navy, air force, and places where weapons are manufactured and stored. So what is the story here? That if you enter in these places which are prohibited, which come under the Official Secrets Act, then if you enter these places, then what will happen to you? You will be prosecuted. You are committing a crime if you enter to these places. Now the question is, suppose if there is the trade deal between two countries. For example, we had the Rafale deal, and there are various other deals, or there is in the army, in the defense sector, there is some corruption is going on there. So can you approach to the authorities that there is corruption is going on in this region, in this area? So can you do this? This question, it cannot be answered. You cannot do it. It is you cannot enter to this place. You cannot, because of the Official Secrets Act, you cannot highlight these crimes. So the aim, the major focus of this act is to have the secrecy in this area, Now let's move forward. As we understood so far that you cannot share the information, you cannot deal with these areas. Now suppose, for example, there is a retired army personnel, or there is a man who was working in this area, and there was an official who was working in this area, and he has shared the information with anybody else. What would be the penalty for that? The penalty would range from 3 years to 14 years. The penalty, if it is related to army, then it is 14 years. If it is related to other stuff, then it would be 3 years. So this is the penalty for that. Penalty is for spying, violation of Official Secrets Act. Now suppose if a company is involved in violating the Official Secrets Act, then what would be the penalty on them? The top higher officials, all the higher officials would be deemed guilty if any company is involved with respect to it. Then The another question which may come to your mind: does the Official Secrets Act talk about the classification of documents? No, it does not talk about classification of documents like secret, top secret, or confidential. But there is something else which talks about it. It is done under the Manual of Department, Manual of Department Security Instruction of 1994, which talks about the classification of documents. Then we have the in the Right to Information Act, we saw that there is a mandate for what? Public interest test. In the Right to Information Act, there is a mandate for the public interest test, that if it is for the public, for example, there is section 8 of the Right to Information, IJ to be more precise, which talks about that if your public information cannot be shared, your personal information cannot be shared with, you cannot ask for the personal information. But if it is for the larger public interest, then it can be done. With respect to the with respect to the with respect to the Official Secret Act, you cannot there is no scope for the public interest mechanism. There is no scope for the public interest test. For example, you want to unearth the corruption in the Rafael case, you want to unearth the corruption in any defense related activity. There is no such scope for that. Eventually, the case may go to the court, but court will not highlight the allegation. The court may not highlight the secret document, because the court will do what courts will do. There would be the secret envelope concept, where it will just look at the allegations. It will look at the data. If courts will feel that this data can be misused, then it will remain silent about it. And this data cannot be made available. And if, for example, eventually suppose you had there was a person and he has unearthed this corruption case in the under these areas where the Official Secrets Act applies. Now what will happen to this? If the data which he had shared, if it is of the national interest, then he will be punished. If it is not of the national interest, then he may be spared. The important thing is that the important aspect of it is that it should be if it is, for example, if it can impact the security and sovereignty of the nation, if it can impact the reputation of the nation, if it can impact the relationship with the foreign country. For example, we had a deal about Rafale with France. We had bought some Rafale jets. You cannot ask for what amount we had brought those jets. You cannot ask for this data. Suppose there is a relationship between India and France has given us these jets on a very concession to us. Maybe France has given concession to us, but there will be other countries. Once they will hear of that, they will also start demanding the same prices. So these things cannot be put in the in the public. So this is how the courts will deal with respect to this. And the purpose is penalty for the spying. If you are the purpose of the Official Secrets Act is the penalty for the spying. Then we also saw that what are the different philosophies of the Official Secrets Act and the Transparency and the Right to Information Act. It is for the Official Secrets Act, it is secrecy, and for the Right to Information Act, it is transparency. Then we had seen various petitions in the Supreme Court. For example, Prashant Bhushan, the advocate, he approached the Supreme Court about there are public companies and private companies who are trading with the Israel, and he claimed in the Supreme Court that Israel is doing the genocide, and the Supreme Court should put ban on these, should cancel the licenses of these public and private companies. But Supreme Court rejected it. Why? Because Supreme Court highlighted three reasons. First, Israel is a sovereign country. Second, it would lead to the breach of contract. And third, foreign policy is under the domain of executive, and we cannot interfere we cannot intervene in it, and we cannot ask for this information. We cannot intervene in this issue. And also the courts have been very much reluctant to share the national security and share the information which deal with the national security and the diplomacy. Then similarly, we also discussed the Rafale case, why it should not be shared. And also, what is the other issue with the Official Secrets Act? Even though it deals with it, but it does not define the official secrecy. What is this official secrecy? So it can lead to the manipulation, it can lead to the misuse. The Official Secrets Act, it does not define the official, what is this secrecy, it does not define the official secrecy, it does not define official secrecy. So and eventually in the Official Secrets Act, it is very well established that the right to information supersedes the Official Secrets Act. But there is also a concern when if it is for, if there is the wider national interest, if there is the security and sovereignty is threatened, then the right to information will not supersede, and otherwise it will supersede. If it does not threaten the security, then you can you can ask for the documents. Then let's see what are the areas of overlap between the two. Areas of overlap between the two. First, in the Right to Information Act, we saw that in the RT Act there is the domain of the public interest clause, but in the Official Secrets Act there is no such domain of the public interest clause. For example, we saw that Raphael deal, a sealed envelope, we discussed that the courts would see themselves, they will not share the information with the petitioner. So definitely there is issue with that. And with respect to this, what does the Law Commission say? Law Commission says that we need to define what is official secrets, and also the Second Administrative Reforms Commission says we should repeal the Official Secrets Act. And in 2023 we got new entity added, and that is the India's Computer Emergency Response Team. Computer Emergency Response Team, which is CERT in. And in 2023 it was this CERT in, it was exempted from the right to information. This CERT in, it was exempted from the right to information, and it became the 27th entity which was exempted from the right to information. And where it is mentioned in the second schedule of the Right to Information Act. This can be very much relevant for your prelims preparation. CERT in, which was established in 2023, it was exempted from the Right to Information Act, and it became the 27th entity which was exempted, and it is mentioned in this second schedule of the Right to Information Act. Now here, what do we need to know? We need to know about what are the positives with respect to this CERT in. It is exemption from the right to information, and what are the negatives related to it. First, let us see what are the positives. First, it is for the protection of the national security. Protection of national security. You would have heard about what does this CERT in deal with. It deals this CERT in deals with the cyber attacks which are happening. It will deal with that. It will counter those cyber attacks. It will in a way it is the protection at the cyber level, at the space level. It is this CERT in deals with the protection at the cyber level. So with respect to this, when there are attacks from different countries, there is sensitive cyber security, there are various cyber security issues. How then, if these attacks are, for example, there are attacks from different countries, and if this information would be sought by the petitioners, then this would unearth various issues. For example, it will lead to what are the lacunae in our cyber security, what are the ways we can be misused, and it will also impact the trust of the foreign countries on our security system, and also the way they contribute to it. There would be certain may take the help from the foreign countries too. With respect to this, they will hesitate that once if we will contribute to them, this information may be shared with the others. So in this way, this gives the protection of the national security. Then second, it will it enhances cyber security operations. It enhances cyber security operations. For example, if this information would be shared, what were the areas which were attacked, what were where we missed the, what were the weak points of our system. They can be, misused in the further, if it is put in public, it may be misused by the enemy countries. So definitely it is the for the major greater interest of the of the country. It is for the best purpose that it should be very much kept hidden. Then the third thing which is important with respect that is the protection of the personal data and that is third is protection of personal data and confidential information. For example, there is a certain company who had seen the cyber attack, and they get they get the help from the certain. For them, they have to share the information, the names, the call recordings, and all that. So if it is to be shared with the public, what it will lead to? It will lead to further chaos. So for that, it is better that it should not be shared with the public. It should be kept outside the domain of the right to information, and in this way, it will lead to the protection of the personal data and confidential information. And also, it will, fourth point is that it will prevent the cyber panic. It will prevent cyber panic. For example, if the information is sought from them how many banks were attacked this year, and they will share the information that these were the banks which were attacked, so eventually it will impact the trust of the people on the banks, and they will start withdrawing their money, that they may lose the money. So in this way, it will spread the panic in the country. And if this information is not shared, there would be the there would be the undiscussed trust which the people have on these banks. This trust will remain there. The people, the trust which the people have on the authorities, it will remain there if it is not to be kept, if it is not to be kept open, if it is not, if it is kept, if it is kept confined. Now these are the positives, how it impacts. Now let us see what are the negatives related to it. Negatives. First, reduces transparency and accountability. Reduces transparency and accountability. For example, if this information is not shared by them, so they don't care about it, how much they would protect it. They know that nobody is going to ask the questions. Definitely it will reduce the transparency and accountability. And it will also lead to the possibilities of misuse, possibilities to misuse. For example, suppose any country is attacking us, what kind of information they had taken from them, what was the ransom they had taken from them. So it can be misused by the authorities. And also it will limit the information on major cyber incidents. Limit the information on major cyber incidents. So in this way, these are some negatives which are associated with it. For example, if this information is not shared, there are many computer engineers who want to overcome these issues, who want to have the solution for these hackers. So if this information is not shared with them, how will they come to know what are the various problems which arise because of this? So they will not be able to find the solution to it. Now let's move to the another topic, which is Digital Personal Data Protection Act. Digital Personal Data Protection Act 2023, DP Act of 2023, and its impact on right to information. We have the 2017 judgment of K.S. Pathuswamy that right to privacy is the fundamental right. By this judgment, right to privacy became the fundamental right, and you cannot be, you should not be forced to ask, you should not be forced to know, government should not force you to know what is your personal information. And we know that how much important data is, as it is said that data is the new oil. Data is the new currency. We know that how much important it is. So in order to protect this data, the government came up with the data protection, digital uh, privacy, digital personal data protection act of 2023, so that this data would be protected. And once you are sharing your data with another, for example with any company, and you share this, that on the basis that they will not share it further with other companies. So there is, in a way, your consent is needed every time. So what it leads to, that your consent is needed every time. But there are various issues with it. When your consent is needed every time, there it led to the various issues. For example, how do we unearth scams if the consent is needed every time? How do we unearth scams with respect to Manrega and Ujwala? We will have to go through the beneficiaries. They may have personal data and they may not be ready to share it with you guys. Then also there is this gives a broader definition of personal. There is broader definition of the personal data, which what are the entities which come under the definition of the personal data which cannot be shared. And also it has increased the denials based on the personal data protection. For example, you want to file the RTI against any official, they would say that they will not share it because it comes under the personal data protection act. Then also there is lack of public interest override, and also it impact on the it impacts the it impacts the journalism and investigative work of these journalists. For example, if you have to share the data by the consent of the people every time, it in a way impacts the journalism and the investigative journalism that too. And also the law changed the context of the RTI. For example, section 8 talks about the right to information, and section 8J, it talks about the personal data which can't be shared if there is a large public interest. But in digital personal data protection act, this has been diluted. This section 8(1) of J, it has been diluted, and it has said that this section 8IJ, it is confined to this provision only in the right to protection act. It does not have the wider implications. Similarly, we have the section 35 of the digital personal data protection act 2025, in which if the government has the data, if for example they will violate this data and the intention of the government was good, then you cannot do anything about that. So this is one of the drawback with respect to it. So in this way, this digital personal data protection act of 2023, it has given wider protection to the people. And this protection, it in a way has impacted the right to information, because now if you want to get the information, you can be denied more, that we cannot give you this information because it is violative of the digital personal data protection act. And also if the government violates it, then the government can say that it was for the it was in the good intentions of the government. Now similarly, last topic of today's discussion, and then we will wind up the right to information act. It is about the whistleblowers. Who are these whistleblowers? These are the people who unearth the scams. What we have to discuss now: whistleblowers. For example, you are studying in you are in a school and you are too young, and there is exam is going on, and you see somebody is copying from some another guy. At that time, what you will do, you will call the teacher, the invigilator, and tell him that that particular person is copying. So in this way, eventually, if that person is stronger than you, what he will do, when you will leave the class, he will beat you up and you will be punished. So if the same applies to this, for example, you are working for some government, you are a government employee, or you are working for any particular company, and you see that there is corruption going on, and you want to unearth it. So what usually you do, you will go to higher authorities that particular place the corruption is going on, and eventually you would unearth it. Your purpose is you are exposing the scams you are exposing the corruption, and you are you know you are doing a great work, but eventually what happens to you? Once you are exposing these scams, what happens? The owners of those industries and the higher officials, what they do, they either kill you, or the least they can do to you is that they will be hindrance in your promotion. You will not be paid on the time, and eventually they will impact your career. So definitely, we need to unearth these scams, we need to unearth these corruption cases, we need to expose these any such kind of activity. We need to fix the accountability, and these people who are fixing these accountability, they should be celebrated. But the case in India was very different. For example, in November 2003, there was a man called Satyendra Dobe. What was the name of the man? Satyendra Dubey, and he exposed the corruption in National Highway Authority of India in the Golden Quadrilateral project. And what happened? He was murdered. He was murdered for exposing this corruption. Then similarly, there was the Manjunath. He was also murdered. Official in Karnataka, he was also killed. And post Satyendra Dubey, more than 50 such persons have been killed with respect to the whistleblowing. So the matter went to the court with respect to this, that please court come into the protection of these people who expose these scams. Then the Supreme Court, it passed pressed this central government issued order in the public interest disclosures and protection of the informers resolution. And the Central Vigilance Commission would be the CVC. Under this, the Central Vigilance Commission would be CVC. It would be the nodal agency under this. The nodal agency would be the CVC for the public interest disclosures and the protection of the informers resolution. But in 2011, bill was introduced which is named as the Whistleblowers Protection Act of 2000, which eventually became the Act in 2014. It is this Whistleblowers Protection Act of 2014. It is not applicable to the Special Protection Group and the Army. Whistleblowers Protection Act of 2014. It is not applicable to the Special Protection Group, SPG, and Army. SPG, it deals with the with the protection of the PMs or ex-PMs, and from 2014 the families of the ex-PMs had been excluded from it. It only caters the protection with the protection of the current family of the PMs. And it covers this Whistleblowers Act of 2000, Protection Act of 2014. The act covers the public servants at the central level. It covers the public servants at the central level. So what is its scope? Only central employees can, for example, they will see there is corruption going on in their department, and they will approach the authority which is chosen for it. They will approach the authority. Central employee can do so, and competent authority will receive the information. There would be the competent authority to whom he will approach that there is a corruption. But here is a scenario that the anonymous complaints can't be entertained by this competent authority. And if you want to complain, you have to give it into the written format. Then also the another provision under it is that confidentiality of the identities. That, for example, if I am complaining about it, my identity would not be revealed to the person. For example, I am complaining against my higher official, to the higher official of both of us. Then to whom I am complaining it, he will not reveal my identity to the person against whom I had complained that particular person had complained it against you. So there would be the confidentiality of the identities. Then it will also it has provisions again. It has provisions which leads to the prevention from the victimization. You can, if you are whistleblowing, you are unearthing any scam, you are complaining against anybody, then it will give you the protection against the victimization. You cannot be victimized. And also, For example, if you are filing the false complaint, then you would be punished. You can go to the jail for 2 years, and also you can be fined. It is this is what the law says. But here we have the exceptions to. What is the exception to disclosure? For example, if it deals with the sovereignty, integrity, and security, then you cannot disclose. If it deals with the foreign relations, then it cannot happen. And also there would be the preliminary inquiry. Once you will complain, there would be preliminary inquiry. Then at the end, the actions would be taken. Now let's see what are the issues with it. Issues with Whistleblowers Act of 2014. First issue is it does not recognize the anonymous complaint. It does not recognize anonymous complaints. This is one of the complaint against it, and it is what is recommended by the Law Commission. And the second, this is what is recommended by the Law Commission, that they should entertain this anonymous complaint should be entertained. What is wrong with it? For look at the complaint, do the preliminary inquiry. If this complaint is right, then do the action. What you have to do on the official capacity. If these anonymous complaints are not entertained, it in a way puts fear in the minds of the people. Suppose I am going to complain against my higher official in front of another person from the same department. Maybe all these two persons are involved in this scam. What will happen to me? So these are various issues which come in under it. So that is the reason it is highlighted that they should accept the anonymous complaints. And also it has potential for biased investigation. Potential for biased investigation. Suppose I am complaining again with higher official, and he is also involved in this scam. Why would he favor me if he is involved? So there is huge potential that the investigation would be very much biased. And also there is weak implementation in organizations. There is weak implementation of this Whistleblowers Act in the organization. Workers, they don't have the idea that there is such Whistleblowers Act which they can use in such cases, which they can take the benefit of. And also there is no incentive given to these whistleblowers. No incentive is given to these whistleblowers. No reward, nothing like that. Indeed, if the claim is false, then they are punished. But if the claim is right, there is no award given to them. And also no definition of the victimization. What is the definition of the victimization? It is not given properly. So in this way, these are the various issues which are related to the Whistleblowers Protection Act of 2014. And with respect to this, the amendment was government tried to amend it in 2015, but eventually this amendment was not successful, because it in a way for the whistleblowing, the government told them that you should first get the information from the right to information, then you can file the complaint. But eventually it was not passed. This bill was not passed in 2015. So with this, there are few recommendations with respect that. First, the nodal agency, it should be CVC. Second, anonymous complaint should be accepted, and the state organization, state government should also be part of it, and also the private authorities, private companies should also be the part of it. And also, as Law Commission of India and the second ARC Commission says that anonymous filing of complaints should be encouraged. There should be no penalty for officials who victimize whistleblowers. And also there is the delays which are in the cases, it should be reduces. Actually, there should be the penalty. In the case there are no penalties for the officials who victimize these whistleblowers. So there should be penalties against them who in a way victimize these people. There should be larger protection to these people. So with this, we had completed our today's discussion. I hope you would have liked it. I know that the governance part, it is very much boring, but at the same time it is very much important. You are watching my videos, but trust me, the notes would be very much beautifully written, and the notes and these videos, they will complement each other, and eventually it will help you in clearing the exam. Thank you for staying with me. Thank you very much, and have a nice day. And also, I would like to mention that, you know, this was the third lecture of governance. So far we had completed the Indian polity fully. We discussed every topic related to it, and it is first time, where I'm teaching the governance. So please, forgive if I'm not, able to explain it with that experience. But I'm complementing these with my notes. They will explain you these things very informatively, and it would be very much beneficial for you. So thank you for staying with me. Thank you very much, and please do subscribe the channel. Have a nice day.